Hello, and welcome back to Tech Latest from Nikkei Asia, where we bring you the freshest updates from the technology sector in Asia. I'm your host, Akito Tanaka from Nikkei Asia's Tokyo headquarters. And Tamayo Muto, a Nikkei Asia staff writer also based in Tokyo, will join us for this episode. We'll discuss the outlook and challenges of Nintendo's new Switch 2. Welcome to this week's episode, Tamayo. It's really great to have you here.
Thank you for having me today.
So, in this week's Tech Asia feature story, you wrote about Nintendo's new gaming console, Switch 2, which hit shelves on Thursday. But it seems like not many customers are actually going to get the new gaming console. Why?
So, Nintendo Switch 2 has become so popular that it's even called social phenomenon. I visited Big Camera, Japanese electronics retailer's main store in Ikebukuro on the release date. And even though it was a weekday, I saw a long line of winners who came to pick up their Switch 2. One of the fans said he waited for 4 hours since early morning and he looked very happy, saying, "I finally got this." So simply put, supply is far away from keeping up with the overwhelming global demand,
Okay.
though there are two different categories of demand. The first is a loyal fan base who are eagerly waiting for the launch of the new console, which came 8 years after the release of the original Nintendo Switch. Nintendo President Mr. Furukawa said Nintendo had received 2.2 million pre-order applications for Switch 2 in Japan, which far exceeded expectations.
Okay.
Another demand comes from scalpers, who aims to benefit from the console's popularity by reselling it at higher prices than they bought. Nintendo has been taking multiple measures to ensure only true gamers get their hands on it, while the resale of game consoles itself is not illegal. In order to buy Switch 2 in Japan, you need to apply for lotteries through the Nintendo's online shop called My Nintendo, or retail shops under strict conditions set by each store, including a certain amount of purchase history or playtime of the previous Switch console.
Wow, it sounds really difficult to get this new Switch 2. Now, tell us about the difference between the current model, the original Switch, and Switch 2. What changed? How much does it cost? And, what are their sales points?
Yeah, so the Switch 2 will be most notable for its cutting-edge graphics technology.
Okay.
The CEO of NVIDIA describes it as the most advanced graphics ever in a mobile device. With its screen approximately 1.6 times larger than the previous model, the Switch 2 has enhanced graphics as well as processing capabilities. On the release day, I saw winners who couldn't help posting videos showing how fast the Switch 2's loading time is compared to the previous console.
I see.
The new Switch also introduces features such as a controller that transforms into a mouse-like device and game chat, allowing users to play games while seeing faces of family and friends on the screen remotely and chatting with them.
Sounds quite interesting.
Mm-hmm. Analysts say the Switch 2 is more powerful and enhanced than its predecessor, but not a complete redesign. This rather guarantees its success, considering the recent gamers trend where they tend to continue playing the game they are already familiar with.
I see.
Regarding the price, Nintendo has introduced a dual pricing strategy and aims to prevent scalping from Japan to overseas. Multi-language devices are priced at $449.99,
Okay.
while in Japan, Japanese language-only consoles cost around $350.
Okay, I see. So, it's not a completely new game. It's rather a major update to the current version. And the scalping story is quite interesting. And also, I noticed that $449.99 in the multi-language version and $350 for the Japanese language-only consoles. That sounds relatively cheap compared from, the ones from the PlayStation and Microsoft Xbox series.
Right, so Nintendo wants Switch 2 to be really popular among wider audiences, including women, children,
Yes.
that used to not to play the games.
Interesting. Okay, now, what strategies has Nintendo adopted in developing and sales of the Switch 2?
Yes, so Nintendo stands out from its competitors, PlayStation Sony, Xbox Microsoft, and game software developer Square Enix, in both hardware and software development.
Okay.
In terms of hardware, Nintendo has been working with NVIDIA as a long-term partner whose graphic semiconductor capabilities enable Switch 2 to adapt to software with heavy render load. Nintendo aims to attract core game fans with this technology.
Mm-hmm.
Regarding the software, Nintendo is focusing on developing its own games with its own intellectual property rather than relying on third-party games. Nintendo's share of in-house software revenue was 73% in the previous fiscal year, driven by popular characters such as Mario, Zelda, and Donkey Kong. This contrasts with Sony, which has to rely on third-party intellectual properties to reach fans.
Okay.
And I also interviewed with former art director at Nintendo, Takaya Imamura, who worked on popular games such as The Legend of Zelda. And he said that because PC and smartphone games are becoming more popular, it is becoming difficult for game consoles to survive on hardware alone.
I see.
He said Nintendo must present its intellectual property and platform as a unified value proposition.
I see. Interesting. And obviously, as you mentioned, Nintendo has an in-house character like Mario and Zelda, which have been beloved by a lot of customers, from young kids to adults. And if you compare that from PlayStation and Xbox, they tend to rely on the outside developers. So at the end of the day, if you wanted to play Mario, you have to get Switch 2. That's their strategy, right?
Yes. And it's been quite successful.
I see. And now on to the challenges. What do you think are the challenges of Nintendo's new Switch 2?
Yes, so although Switch 2 is widely regarded as a guaranteed success in the market, we could mention some concerns for the company to overcome.
Okay.
So the first is US tariffs imposed by the President Trump. And the second is whether it can break the post-hit jinx.
I see.
So Nintendo does not have its own manufacturing facilities and relies on partner factories in China and Vietnam to make Switch 2 consoles.
Yep.
So the company can be directly impacted by the tariffs.
Okay.
Nintendo announced in May that it expects to sell 15 million units of Switch 2 console, which would push up operating profits by 13% in the financial year ending in March 2026. The president, Mr. Furukawa, said the estimates are based on the scenario of 145% tariffs on China and the 10% tariff on other countries. He also mentioned that if the tariffs were implemented, they will incorporate them into the cost.
I see.
Nintendo's strategy may be to play it safe due to its history of a hit-and-miss cycle when it comes to gaming consoles. After the success of the Wii, its successor, the Wii U, sold only 13% of the Wii sales.
Okay.
And also sales of the Nintendo 3DS also ended up about half of that of Nintendo DS.
I see. You mentioned about the Wii and the Wii U and the Nintendo DS and 3DS. Obviously, the original Switch was a huge success in every part of the global market. Do you think Switch 2 will be as successful as the original Switch and then Nintendo's going to finally break the jinx, or?
Well, yeah, that's a tough question.
Okay.
But despite the concerns discussed, Switch 2 has been performing well so far, and demand can increase even more in coming months.
Okay.
Because obviously, not all gamers can buy it at launch. This includes children who rely on their parents' wallets and fans in Southeast Asia where the product has not yet been released.
Okay.
I recently spoke with an analyst at Toyo Securities, Mr. Hideki Yasuda, and he estimated that global sales of the Switch 2 will exceed 150 million units, which is more than the original Switch.
Okay, so that's a pretty strong estimate here.
Yeah, I think so. Nintendo itself announced a cautious sales forecast for this financial year, which is almost the same as for the original Switch console in this launch year.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Yasuda said, the Switch 2's stylish design and familiarity of the original Switch will lead it to the huge success.
And do you own Switch, Tamayo?
No, unfortunately, I don't have one.
Would you want to buy Switch 2?
Yeah, of course. Why not?
I see. And now, probably most importantly for listeners, will Switch 2 be widely available to customers for the holiday season? Because I'm sure this is going to be at the top of the gift list and, our readers, children or friends would want to have it. But would it be available widely, during holiday seasons? What do you think?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are hoping so. But yeah, it may be unfortunate news, but analysts predict that it would take Nintendo about a year to address the overwhelming demand. We can interpret the sales forecast of 15 million as protected, but one analyst still said due to the limited assembly capacity at factories in China and Vietnam, it will be difficult for Nintendo to increase production this year. However, there is hope as well. Even if Nintendo cannot increase production, the company could increase the amount of shipment temporarily to meet the demand for the holiday season by utilizing air shipment in addition to the conventional sea freight. A staff member at Big Camera told me a plan to implement the lottery system again for the next sales round. He said it will take a while before everyone who wants a Switch 2 can get their hands on it.
I see. Great. Well, thank you. Thank you, Tamayo, for joining the podcast.
Thank you so much for today.
That's all for this week's episode. You can read more of Tamayo's reporting along with other stories about Asia's tech industry on Nikkei Asia's website, asia.nikkei.com. Thank you for listening, and please come back for our next episode.